Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into India in mid-2025, a nation that is, well, walking a razor's edge. You've got this incredible economic promise and a much bigger voice on the world stage on one side, but on the other, there are these intense pressures, both from the outside and from within, that are really testing its foundations. It's a massive high-wire act, and we're going to break down exactly what that looks like. So here's how we're going to unpack all of this. We'll kick things off with a major economic clash playing out globally. Then we'll dig into the paradoxes of India's growth story. After that, we'll look at its really delicate diplomatic dance, expose some new and pretty raw battlegrounds within its society, and finally, we'll ask the big question. How is India trying to future-proof itself for whatever comes next?
Okay, let's jump right into our first story, a major confrontation that sent some serious shockwaves through the global markets. And it all kicked off with two simple but pretty explosive words.
Right. In late July of 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump used those exact words, dead economies, to talk about India and Russia. Now look, this wasn't just some off-the-cuff remark. This came right alongside a brand new and very steep 25% tariff on Indian exports. And there were threats of even more penalties because of India's ongoing relationship with Russia on things like military tech and energy. Well, as you'd probably expect, India's government fired back, and they fired back immediately. While the U.S. was painting this picture of economic ruin, officials in Delhi were presenting a completely different reality. They pointed out, hey, India is a top 5 global economy. It's driving a huge 16% of all global growth. And by the numbers, it's still the fastest growing major economy on the entire planet. So which story is true? Is the economy dead, or is it absolutely booming? Well, the real answer, as is almost always the case, is a lot more complicated than a simple headline. To really get it, we've got to peel back the layers on those really impressive growth numbers. And let's be clear, that top-line growth is, without a doubt, staggering. I mean, according to IMF data, India's economy in 2025 is nearly 12 times bigger than it was just 30 years ago. That is an almost unheard of level of expansion, faster than pretty much every other major economy out there, except for China. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you look closer at what is growing, a bit of a structural concern pops up. Since about 2019, agriculture has actually grown faster than manufacturing. Now, for a country that really wants to be the world's next great factory, that's a sign that industrialization isn't quite moving as fast as hoped. And this, right here, is the central paradox of India's whole growth story. You've got that incredible 12x expansion happening, but it's happening at the same time as some really serious challenges. We're seeing a pretty alarming rise in wealth inequality. The number of women in the workforce is still among the lowest in the world. And maybe the weirdest thing of all is this unemployment paradox. The more educated you are, the more likely you are to be unemployed. It all paints a very, very complex picture. You know, the same tension, this balancing act between soaring ambitions and the reality on the ground, it's not just in the economy. It's playing out on the world stage too. India is performing this incredibly delicate diplomatic dance, trying to build new partnerships while fiercely protecting its own interests in a world that is just changing by the minute. And a crucial battleground for this dance is the digital world. It all revolves around this really powerful idea, digital sovereignty. In an era that's going to be defined by AI and big data, this is basically the fight to make sure a country controls its own digital future, instead of just becoming somebody else's digital colony. And this is precisely why India's recent free trade agreement with the UK has so many people raising alarms. Critics are arguing that India made some major concessions that could really weaken its digital sovereignty. For example, India agreed it wouldn't demand the source code of foreign tech for pre-approval. It also gave UK firms open access to government data, which, by the way, is a goldmine for training AI. These are huge moves that set a major precedent for the digital world. So while it's navigating these massive global deals, India is also busy shoring up its own backyard with its neighborhood-first policy. After a really tense period with the Maldives, you might remember the whole India Out campaign, there's been a major diplomatic reset. We're talking a massive line of credit and new talks for a trade deal. This is a very clear effort to strengthen those regional alliances as a buffer against global storms. Okay, let's bring the focus back home, because these high-level national tensions, they're showing up in some deeply personal ways. They're creating new social battlegrounds, places where modern dreams are colliding head-on with complicated laws, and in some cases, just outright criminal exploitation.
To see exactly what this looks like, let's talk about the heartbreaking story of a couple, Sonam and Akshay Singh. They traveled all the way from Rajasthan to a fertility clinic in Secunderabad with one dream, to have a child through surrogacy. But almost a year and 30 lakh rupees later, a DNA test revealed a completely shocking truth. The baby they had been given wasn't biologically theirs at all.
Now, their case exposes the very dark underbelly that India's Surrogacy Act of 2021 was designed to completely stamp out. The law is incredibly strict. It bans commercial surrogacy altogether, only allowing for altruistic arrangements with a close relative. But as the Singh story, and at least 14 other similar cases from that same clinic proves, a criminal network simply found a way to exploit desperate couples, allegedly selling them newborns that belong to other parents.
So all of this brings up a really crucial question. With all these immediate fires to put out, economic ones, diplomatic ones, social ones, how does a nation like India even begin to make the kind of long-term bets it needs to secure its future? Well, the answer seems to be emerging in two key areas. It's people and the planet. First, investing in people. Just look at the southern state of Tamil Nadu. Their rate for getting people into higher education is 47%. I mean, that absolutely blows past the national average, which is just 28.4%. And this is not a fluke. It is the direct result of decades of social justice-driven policies, everything from midday meals to scholarships that have created a powerful engine for human progress. And second, investing in the planet. But with a really interesting twist. By recognizing that nature itself is a form of critical infrastructure. Take mangroves, for example. For years, people just saw them as coastal forests. But now, there's this growing understanding that they are a vital economic asset that actually protects millions of people from the effects of climate change. Just how valuable are we talking? Well, the carbon that's captured by the Sundarbans mangroves alone is estimated to be worth over 460 million rupees every single year. And that's not even counting the billions they provide in storm protection or as a nursery for fisheries. So conserving these ecosystems isn't just some nice environmental thing to do. It's a core economic and climate resilience strategy. So what's the key takeaway from all of this? It's the sheer dizzying complexity of the tightrope that India's walking. It's trying to engineer rapid growth, defend its sovereignty, and deliver social and environmental justice, all at the same time. And this leaves us with the fundamental question for India's future. Can any nation truly balance all of these powerful, often competing forces at once? Or will something, eventually, have to give?